Hey, welcome back, AP1 students. I'm going to be talking about Chapter 7, which is going to be the skeletal system. I'm going to try to have this as a review for people that see me on a daily basis. And for those students who are online, this will help you in the fact going through the chapter. You still are required to read the chapter before I even speak to you, but this is to help you with my PowerPoint. So you'll want to pull out your PowerPoint that I have online uploaded for you, or my regular students that are here on campus. Pull out your PowerPoint and review as I'm speaking through it. Okay. The skeletal system we're going to talk about is we're just going to refer to everything but the cartilage, the joints and ligaments. 20% of your body's mass is going to come from the skeletal system, and it's roughly 30 pounds in an average 160-pound person. Okay? It's divided into two areas, axial and appendicular. I've already explained what the difference between the two are. Let's start with the axial. So this is where you'll need the skull, those of you that are online students. The axial is roughly 80 bones, and it's in 3 regions. Okay, we're talking about this, the skull, the vertebra, and ribs and sternum. It's going to form your longitudinal axis of your body. Think about it. If you're looking standing up, it's forming how your body stands in a normal position, whether there's a curvature to it, whether it's not very tall. Okay, that's going to be decided by your axial skeleton. Okay, it supports your head. Your head is extremely heavy. Okay, the skull itself, though you're messing with something plastic, is very heavy. Now we're going to add something very important, which would be your brain and any fluid that is in there as well. Okay, it's going to protect that brain, which without it you don't survive, and spinal cord, without it you don't have any motion, okay, or function. The skull, extremely complex, tons of bones. There's the cranial bones and the facial bones. It offers tons of places for muscles to attach for motion while you're talking is a great example, me. Okay. The bones of the skull are mostly flat except for one bone, and that's the mandible. That's this bone. Okay, all bones interlock together by something called sutures. If you take your skull and you see anything that's jagged and it looks like it's fitting together perfectly, okay, that's going to be a suture. It almost looks serrated. It allows for motion, growth, pressure changes. Okay, facial bones form the anterior cranium, is going to form the rest. The cranium's divided into 2 areas. The vault represents the superior lateral, posterior, and forehead. The base is going to be pretty much everything else, but it's defined as the inferior aspect of it. Inside there are 3 obvious fossa, so open your brain up now. Your skull's up. Excuse me. Skull's up, please. And if you look in the base of it, you're going to see 3 levels that are clearly obvious. You can see it also on the PowerPoint that brain is fitting into it, and there's a clear, obvious level system to it. Each of those levels are called fossa. Okay, they're also called risers in the skull. There's an anterior, middle, and posterior. That allows the brain to perfectly position itself within it. You have orbits. Those are going to house your eyeballs. It's going to assist with size, and it increases the number of bones. There are several air-filled sinuses found in your skull. Okay. Alright, cranium. Acranial bones, they're paired. Parietal, zygomatic, maxilla, temporal, nasal, lacrimal, palatine, and volar. And then you have a few that are unpaired. That's your frontal, okay, your occipital, your sphenoid, and ethmoid. Start with the frontal bone. I'm going to run through these fairly quickly because you have pictures in your book, and there's no tricks to it as far as their definitions or understanding of where it is and their function. And that's basically what you need to do. Where it is, does it have a function? Okay. Frontal bone, that's the anterior part of the cranium. Okay. It extends all the way into the orbits. Okay, so when you're looking at the picture, you can see that it's not just the forehead. It comes into the orbits as well. Occipital bone, that's at the back base of your bone. Okay. It articulates with the parietal and temporal bones. So if you look on the image or your skull that you've purchased, you can see this occipital bone has sutures with both the sides here and here. Okay. Let's see, what else do I need you to know? If you turn your skull upside down, there's a huge hole. That's called foramen magnum, which literally means big hole. Okay, and that's where the spinal cord will come through. On either side of that big hole, you're going to see condyles. Those are little sitting places for the spine, actually your first cervical vertebra, to fit perfectly so it can allow the motion it's supposed to do. Okay? Let's see. Temporal bone, you know where that is. Everyone says don't hit somebody in the temple. There it is. Temporal bone. It's the lateral skull. It's on both sides. It's inferior to the parietal bones. There's 3 parts to it. Squamous portion of the temporal bone is going to touch the squamous suture. Tympanic portion of the temporal is going to be right near to the external acoustic meatus. That's the hole that represents where the ear would be. And then you have the petrous portion. That's the middle and internal ear portions. Okay. Middle cranial fossa. Okay, that's the middle stepping stool. Supports the temporal lobes of the brain in this region. Carotid canal, which is found on the bottom. It's fairly large. It's just anterior to the jugular foramen. That's going to allow 80% of the blood into the cerebral hemispheres. That's a large portion of it, and that's why they say, you know, killing the carotid or damaging the carotid arteries is very dangerous for the blood supply to the brain. That's why. Let me see. Sorry. Sphenoid bone. Okay. The sphenoid bone is a bat-shaped. It's the length of the middle cranial fossa. It's the keystone of the cranium because it allows articulation with all other cranial bones. Parts of the greater wings, lesser wings, and pterygoid process are found there. Sphenoidal sinuses are found in the body. And the superior surface has a special name. It's called Turk's saddle. So if you're looking at it and it says celaturcica, same thing. It's also called, celaturcica also means, or the other name for it is going to be Turk's saddle. And it literally looks like a saddle that you would put onto a horse as far as its shape. Its purpose is to help protect the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland of the brain actually sits perfectly in there, and it adds something else surrounding it so it doesn't get damaged in a head injury. It's that important. Optic canals obviously are in front of the sella turcica. Those are going to be the optic nerves to reach the eyes. You can see that there is a hole that goes directly into where the eyes would be. Ethmoid bone has a real odd shape to it. It's found between the sphenoid and nasal bones. It's the most deep situated bone of the skull. Right? It has crib-form plates. Those crib-form plates are those like different layers on either side. It looks like it peels across. Okay, those are going to root nasal cavities and hold olfactory nerves, which are your smell receptors. Crista galli is found at the very top. It looks like a tip. For something so small and delicate, it has an extremely important purpose. Okay? The dura mater, which is the outermost covering protecting your brain, actually is secured at this area. Hold on, I'll come back.